afternoon. My name is Sheila Lamb, and I'm with the Virginia SBDC Network. For those of you that are not familiar with our organization, the Virginia Small Business Development Center is a partnership program between the U.S. Small Business Administration, George Mason University, and local host institutions throughout Virginia. With 26 locations across the Commonwealth, we provide training and technical assistance to small businesses in their local, to their local communities. Our one-on-one advising services are available at no charge. Today's webinar, Cybersecurity Awareness Month Kickoff, Strengthening Your Small Business's Defense, is presented by the Virginia SBDC Network. Please save the date for the next webinar in our cybersecurity series, Building a Strong Cybersecurity Foundation for Your Business, on October 24th at 12:30, and I'll drop that registration link into the chat momentarily. We are recording today's presentation, and it will be posted on our website, virginiasbdc.org. Due to the large number of participants, everyone's microphone is muted and the chat feature is turned off. But if you have questions during the presentation, you can type those into the Q&A box, and we will address them at the end of the session. We have also enabled the live transcript function, which you can show or hide via your own meeting controls. And now it is my pleasure to introduce our presenter for today's session, Kiana Gainey. Kiana is a 20-plus year IT and cybersecurity industry veteran and has served as Chief Executive Officer for SecureTech 360, located in Springfield, Virginia, since its inception in 2010. She is also the Cyber Industry Specialist for the Virginia SBDC. Welcome, Kiana.
Thank you, Sheila, and welcome to everyone. So today we're going to really kick off. It's almost like a pre-kickoff, right? We're going to have a pre-kickoff party to October, which is one of my favorite months of the year, which is Cybersecurity Awareness Month. Today we'll cover just some tips and tricks that you can do to strengthen your small business as we go into the holiday season, and even for things that you can use for the new year. Next slide. So yes, so a little bit about myself and my journey. I'm a small business owner as well, so I understand about resources and making sure that I get the most impactful information, informative information for my staff as well. So hopefully you can have some great takeaways that you can do with your staff as well. Next slide. Yes, a little bit about myself as well. I've been in the industry about 20 years, mostly in the government sector, but also done some private work. I've also helped with some nonprofits. So I understand a little bit about where you're at in your business. And so my goal today is to be able to leave you with some tips and tricks that you can also implement into your own small business. I know that cybersecurity is one of those spooky things. And as we're going into October, it's Cybersecurity Awareness Month, but it's also Halloween. So I want to take the spookiness out of cybersecurity. Next slide. So why we're even here today and why we are, gathering information that can help our small business be more resilient in these very unprecedented times, why cybersecurity matters. 43% of most cyber attacks target small business. I know a lot of folks, you see a lot of larger corporations on the news and getting all the news headlines, but to the recent statistics that are out now, a lot of small businesses are also under attack. 60% of small businesses close within 6 months if in the event there is a cyber attack. And 90% of them, you wouldn't believe, it's not something technical, it's usually human error. And that's across either small, large, or even major corporations. The majority of the cyber criminals, they don't discriminate. They target vulnerable computer systems. So there's things like updating your software, making sure you have virus protection implemented, making sure that you are locking down some of your systems. So if you don't do those small little things, that makes you considered to be a vulnerable computer system, and also you can be a part of a cyber attack. The best thing you can do, the best cure for this is prevention. Prevention is the most cost-effective method. I can give you a million tips and tools that you can use for your organization, but the biggest thing that you have, regardless of what size of business or regardless of industry that you are representing, is prevention. Next slide. So let's talk about some common cyber threats for your small business. And one of the major things is understanding your risk. So your risk is going to be different depending on your industries, the type of customers you support, the type of data that you're using or processing. It could be anything from processing to credit cards, to maybe you are a government contractor and you are, handling sensitive data for your customer, but you need to understand what all of those risks can impact your organization as a whole, and also how you can protect your stakeholders or even your customers. Some big attacks that you see all the time, we all see them, they're phishing attacks, right? You get the fake emails that have you with different links that are used to try to steal your information. They're even using them on your phones. They come across, they look very similar to things that you're probably used to seeing. So for instance, if I'm a Verizon customer, they may send an email that says, click here now, Verizon is having a outage and they need you to click here. More than likely, if you look at the body of that email, you can see that there may be one or two letters that are off. There may be something that looks a little off about the email. Those are usually phishing attacks. I always say, do not make it a best practice or something that you even discuss with your staff and even with yourself if you're a party of one. Make it a practice not to click on links from places that seem a little fishy, i.e. the word fishy. Another one is ransomware. That's usually malware that encrypts data and demands a ransom for access. You see this a lot for healthcare organizations because they have things like infinite data where they need their data to be able to take care of the patients. And usually there's a ransom of some sort that the attacker will send to try to get them to send over the data or to unencrypt the data. Another one, and we talked about this, that big statistic about human error. A lot of it's insider threats. Employees, contractors that we work with, sometimes there's malicious intent and sometimes there's not malicious intent. It could just be bad behavior or behavior that they're used to doing, like clicking on emails or gathering information or giving out information. If you have you have employees that are customer facing and they may be responsible, like at a help desk, and someone calls in from the help desk seeking information, and the information that they're seeking, it could be something that can help them get privileged access. And then even also another fad that's going on is that people are actually going to social media pages and looking at most people's profiles to see where they work, what type of information they may have access to, and they may be sending maybe random emails to say, hey, do you want to be a guest speaker about some topic, or you want to be able to write a blog about something. So I always use a rule of thumb. Anytime someone is sending you an email from a source that is not a trusted source, make sure you do your due diligence and make sure you do your background on the information that they want and also on the individual that's seeking the information. Last but not least, weak passwords, unsecure networks, using easy to guess passwords. I know with some of the unique passwords that we are having to develop, 10 to 15 characters with special characters and unique passwords, it can kind of get, a little, it could seem a lot like it's an additional thing that you have to remember. And most of the times people start writing them down. So just make sure that you are implementing a password policy that has unique features, something that maybe is unique to you that someone will be able to easily guess. And then also if you have options to use proper encryption, do that as well. Next slide. So kind of went over some best practices, but we'll go a little bit more into a deeper dive to help you strengthen your cybersecurity. Practical steps for your protection. Number one, the greatest tool and resource that you'll ever have is education. Education is the greatest prevention tool. I know we all see those cybersecurity training, and sometimes I always call it the click by PowerPoint, or you're just going through the motions. Make sure that you're taking the time to also implement some of the things that you're learning in the cybersecurity training. Make them a part of your culture within your organization. Make sure that you're sending out regular emails about different things that are coming out that you see on the news, different risks that are starting to pose more, risk towards your specific industry. We talked about this a little bit earlier, implementing strong passwords when possible, to implement multi-factor authentication. That's also great. We all have that we all use some form of that now, even if you are a banking customer and they send you out a text message after you put in your username or password. That is another layer, an added layer of security that you can use in addition to a complex password. And also backing up your data, making sure you're regularly backing up your data, and then also testing those backups. So I've had clients that make it a practice to back up their data, but then they don't test the backups. And then in the event of the emergency, they're relying on those backups, right? And then the backups may be corrupted, maybe something could have happened while you were backing up the data. So make sure you're regularly testing them against as well, making sure that you're also ensuring that you have some type of incident response plan and even data recovery plan in the event that something happens. So as you can see, prevention is definitely the best step that you can do. Education, investing in things like antivirus or firewalls. Use ones that you know that have the type of security that you need to protect your organization. Do your research as well. I also like to talk to other people that's in maybe in a similar industry that I am in, to see what has worked for them, what hasn't worked. The small business community is very small, but then there are things that we can all utilize to be able to make sure that we're strengthening our cybersecurity and even helping educate our workforce. Next slide. Again, prevention, prevention, prevention. You're going to hear me say this throughout the whole presentation. Implementing preventive measures, like doing the regular software updates and patch management, making that a practice. It could be, some people I've seen them do it monthly, quarterly, but also making sure that if you have the ability to test those updates or those patches in a non-production environment, that's also a great best practice. Implementing some or developing a strong password policy, multi-factor authentication, employee training on recognizing phishing attempts and safe data practices. I also like to do, like we do cybersecurity moments in my weekly staff meetings. And then I also recognize any employees that have done something to foster a security first workforce. It could be anything from them, speaking about something that they heard on the news, or maybe something that happened in real time that we can share with everyone there, and then come up with, fostering feedback on what we should do in, scenario A versus scenario B. And it could be something as simple as just, recognizing them for their them embracing this type of culture. Also utilizing encryption for sensitive data, both at rest or in transit. Conducting regular security audits when possible, depending on the type of system or information that you're protecting. Some folks use pen testing to identify and fix potential weaknesses. You can also I always do like a social engineering practice, or even with my employees, we walk through like a potential scenario. If someone called you and was trying to get information, what would you do in scenario A? What would you do in scenario B? And we kind of talk through it, and then we put together lessons learned, and we implement that in even like a monthly. We have a monthly blog that we send out. Also, we send out about cybersecurity, and we'll implement lessons learned that we've learned either in the field working with our clients, or even things that are happening within our workplace. We also have, anytime that we're using data that may be sensitive in nature, we segment our network to only limit access. So not everyone has access to all the data or different type of applications or infrastructure that we use within the organization. So for example, if you have access only to human resources, maybe you only will have access to human resources and not necessarily maybe something that's dealing directly with the client that may be sensitive. So we also have data use agreements that we also put in place for our employees, and also for some of our other subcontractors that we work with, or other people that are working within the infrastructure as well. So those are just simple preventive measures that you can put to place to be able to strengthen your overall cybersecurity for your organization. Next slide. So I think I've mentioned this briefly about creating a security first culture. And what that means is embedding cybersecurity into your business. With everything, majority of our businesses, we rely on some form of technology. It can be from a mobile device to an iPad to a laptop. it's important that even with those mobile devices, that our employees or even ourselves, because I say even I've been in a small business and for about over 12 years. And so I started with just myself. So it was things I had to put in place just so that once I did start hiring employees, that this was a mindset that I wanted it to be across for all of my employees to make sure they're prioritizing cybersecurity in their daily actions. I try to be a leader to lead by example by trying to model those security best practices. We keep up continuous education to keep cybersecurity top of mind, like coming to a wonderful webinar like today and being able to have that information to share with your customers or even your workforce. Integrating security into our operation, making cybersecurity a part of our business decisions and process. So like we do annual, we look at all of my business plan. And then within my business plan, there is a section that's all dedicated to cybersecurity. And then all the things I talked to you about, like the lessons learned, the things that we've learned over that year. We also update that business plan to put into practice, to maybe to update all of our other cybersecurity plans that we have within the organization. That's everything from incident response plans to disaster recovery plans, what to do in an emergency. We use that time to be able to incorporate any cybersecurity lessons learned or any additional best practices that maybe are new to the industry or maybe even new risks that have been introduced based on new technologies that we're using within the organization. So integrating cybersecurity into your operation is also very crucial in creating a cyber first culture within your organization. Next slide. So some key takeaways as we are kicking off Cybersecurity Awareness Month next month, which in October. Please take advantage of all of the wonderful workshops, education opportunities. I know they have some things that are in person, online. This is our opportunity as a small business community to gather information, or even for myself, I use October as a month to also reflect on things that we can implement, like some of those documents that I talked about earlier, updating those. Looking at some of our policies and procedures, like our backup and recovery, testing maybe our backups. I even like to do scenario-based training during the month of October, where we also just do some incidents, we do mock incidents and then think about how we will respond in that as well. So again, preparation is key, being proactive, doing those regular security audits, doing things like employee training. And employee training can start from the first day the employee arrives all the way up into, reoccurring training, and also making it a part of your weekly and staff meetings. Also think about incident response planning to minimize risk, recognizing any pressing cybersecurity threats that may impact your small business. So keeping up with all of the current threats that's related to your business, what you do, your stakeholders, your customers. If you're in healthcare, keeping up with any regulations or any of the industries that are heavily regulated, looking at what regulations are in place, what has changed within the year, and implementing that into your business plan or even into your security plan if you have that as well. Implementing practical steps for your employee training, building that cybersecurity first culture, and also staying proactive and safeguarding your business against threats are also key in being able to be prepared, and then also not be part of that percentage of human error, because that's the majority of the cyber related incidents. If you have the budget, I'm also a fan of cyber risk insurance. You may have it included in some of your policies that you have. If not, this may be a time in October, before October starts, to look at maybe your insurance plans that you have in place and seeing if that's something that you want to invest in for your company. Maybe you said we're not there yet, maybe something that could be in your future planning, but just thinking about those things. If you have a large enough organization and you can pay for someone to come in to look at your infrastructure, that may be something you can do. If not, take advantage of some of the wonderful organizations that have put together templates, that put together all of these type of things, all the scenario-based training that I talked about. Take advantage of those as well as a start. It doesn't have to be perfect. I always say, you can start with something as small as implementing it into your everyday practices within your small business. You can start with just having employee training, but the key is just to get started. Next slide. So in conclusion, cybersecurity is a continuous journey. The best thing you can do for yourself as a small business owner is staying informed, being proactive, being prepared, making sure that every team member plays a vital role in safeguarding your business, making sure that team member is educated about their role and how it pertains to safeguarding that portion of the business, understanding the threat landscape as we're in now. Awareness of the current threats is crucial, making sure that you implement best practices by putting together effective programs or policies and procedures, employee training, making sure you have some data protection strategies out there to help significantly enhance your security. And last but not least, cultivating that security first culture. It starts sometimes with the leaders within your organization, or even if you are, a part of a member of the team, it starts at every level. And so there may be things that you want to bring to your leadership's attention, the things that you see. I love how DHS had a whole campaign about if you see something, say something, but I also like to add a little extra to that and say, do something, right? So it's one thing to see something, it's another thing to say something, but it's another thing to do something and to be proactive and, to help us navigate this new landscape of different types of threats that are very crucial to our small business. Next slide. So I know we covered a lot, but any questions?
We have one question right now that has come in. It's referencing the first slide, why cybersecurity matters. Let me know if you need me to go back to that, Kiana. But this attendee is looking for you to share the source for those statistics, and I'm guessing it might not just be one source.
Yes, yes, it's multiple sources. I gather a majority of the information from wonderful organizations like CISA.gov, which is all dedicated to helping us strengthen our cybersecurity as a whole for our organization. SBA has some great statistics as well. So, that's where I say about staying informed and making sure that you have trusted sources of information is also very crucial and vital to your small business. So great question. But yes, so it's multiple sources like that.
And right now we don't have any other questions. So if anyone out there has thought of something they'd like to ask Kiana while we have her to pick her brain, I think we have about 30 more minutes. So you can do a lot of picking.
Yeah, yes. And then also as we, I'm doing a shameless plug for our website. I think you have it in the chat, but there are a lot of future webinars. We're going to be doing a lot of different things during Cybersecurity Awareness Month as well. There are also past webinars. Maybe there's something that you want to do more of a deep dive. You can use that website as well. We also have links to some of the other organizations that were mentioned. I think in the next slide, there is some links to some websites that has everything from training for your organization that you can use. CISA.gov, I think I talked about them earlier, Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency. There's a lot of new policies that are being implemented that are very pertinent to small businesses. So if you get a chance, go out there and look at their website. The Federal Trade Commission also has some things about everything from if you're a victim of identity theft to what to do, what steps to take. And this is things that you can use for personally and professionally, who to call in the event that something like this happens. Phishing is very big right now. There's a lot of phishing attacks. Phishing.org has a lot of different training about that you can implement within your small business, or also even if it's just yourself. I would say even when I was my own employee, my education was also just as important. And then no before security awareness training, and also another training source that you can use and even implement within your own organization as well.
And just a reminder, everyone is going to receive these slides in an email, so you will have all these links at your fingertips whenever you need them. So we did have another question, and she's apologizing if you said this. She had to step off for a call, but what do you recommend for dual authentication? She hears that mobile text authentication isn't the best in the breed.
So without me giving out like a tool of choice, I would say two things. There are a lot of things that are on the open market that you can utilize, but based on whatever your budget is for your organization, there are customers that I know that use things like Duo. Duo is a great tool and platform that you can use for multi-factor authentication. It's just very simple. It sends a text to your phone, you authenticate it. It says it's just another level. We talked about multi-layer authentication, multi-factor authentication, but it's also another layer of security for your organization. So having something is great, but making sure you have what you need is even better. So what that means is that do your research, look for, and also, speak to other small business owners that maybe are within your own industry that have used certain things. I mean, those usually are my best source of recommendations because people will tell you, what's good and what doesn't work. Also, when I am researching about a particular tool or resource, I always look at the comments and look at, what people are saying about it. And sometimes you can kind of tell the difference if it's someone that was just not satisfied with the product or if it was something that truly, didn't work for them in their organization. Maybe their organization was too small and this was a bigger investment than they needed to make at this time. So it's just making sure that you do that overall assessment of your organization and what your organization needs are. I always take the rule of thumb of I always write down every tool that I'm using for my organization. I write down what data is being used or utilized within my organization, and then I pair it with what particular way that I want to secure that. So it could be everything from adding a more stringent password policy. Do I need multi-factor authentication for this? Would this be more, can I add things like a firewall? Should this be something that should be not segmented with other tools or applications? So that's when we talked about that, putting together that security plan and writing it out, like very simple how you did it with your business plan. Do the same thing when you're thinking about cybersecurity and what tools to use for your organization.
This attendee goes on and thanks you for that explanation. What about a separate key fob, non-mobile? Is that thought to be the best for sensitive information like banking, etc.?
So I've seen, some folks, they will use that because it's an additional level of security because now it's, you have something something you aren't, right? So it's all layered and it's always going to give you better than only just having just a simple password. So you think about it like that, like think about your front door. You can put maybe, a regular lock, but if you decided to put like a bolted lock, because more than anyone that's outside that door what potential things that you have within your behind that door. But maybe you live somewhere where you don't feel as safe, right? And so maybe you need to put up, maybe an additional screen door that has an additional lock, or maybe you're going to use a lock that has a keypad, or maybe you're not. So those are the type of things when you're putting together like that security assessment. Like take this month as we're ending, before your pre-kickoff, as we're going into October, and look at all the different, things that you have within your infrastructure, your organization, or even in your small business, and think about ways that it can be more secure. What kind of things can I add to give me a better layer of security? What type of incidents potentially happened, or things that you saw that either maybe something happened that one of your employees noticed that, it could be something as simple as physical security. We noticed that there has been more people, driving by at night. So maybe we should implement a more stringent security system. So it just really depends on, what your needs are for your organization. But that's why it's very important to have that security first culture within your organization where you can have that conversation with your employees as well.
Any other questions? Anything come to mind out there? Okay, let's see. When you suspect or experience another company is breaching cybersecurity regulations and initiating cyber attacks towards your business and others, um, and ask Stephanie to elaborate on that question.
So I think what she means, if when we went to that, if you see something, say something, do something scenario. So there are a lot of ways that you can handle incidents like that, right? So if it's something that is happening locally to you, you always have your local authorities. If it's something that may be a larger scale, there are hotlines and ways that you can probably reach out to the FBI to report those as well. So it just really depends on what's happening, who's doing it, but documenting it, making sure you have all the relevant facts as any type of investigation, right? They're going to know the what, when, and how. If you have ways that you can capture what's happening in real time, if you have information, if you have sources. So the more information that you can document, and then reaching out to those local authorities, or in the event that it may have to escalate to the FBI, if maybe you're a victim of identity theft or anything that's happening that may be nefarious of nature, it's making sure that you have all the information that you're going to need for that report. It's going to be very important as well.
Yeah, she was looking for the next step. So
Yep.
You're
So
right.
that FTC website link, the Federal Trade Commission has a lot of resources here, the consumerftc.gov, and it kind of lists how to help you be able to understand when and where to report and how to report. And some of the things that we just discussed about the documentation is going to be very key to that as well.
Wonderful.
I've sent a few folks there. I had a few folks that were victims of identity theft, and it definitely helped them with making sure that they did their reporting, and also put things like a credit freeze on their credit so that folks won't be, just running off to the races, and it can be a mess. So the sooner you can, if something is happening, the sooner you report it, the better as well. So I always say, if you see something, say something, but also do something.
Absolutely. So. Okay, any other questions? Last call. And if we don't have any drop in, I will let you give us a quick few last words of wisdom as we're going into Cybersecurity Month, and then I'll wrap this up.
Yes. So last thoughts, prevention is the best cure, regardless of the size of your business. Putting these small things into place doesn't cost, it's low cost. Always say start with the most low cost, effective way. Utilizing the resources that are available to you in your small business will be key. So hope to see you in Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and we'll talk about some wonderful topics as well.
Absolutely. Kiana, thank you, and thank everyone who attended today. As a reminder, you're going to receive an email with a link to this recording and to the slides with all those wonderful links. If you would like to sign up for upcoming webinars or access recorded webinars, please visit virginiasbdc.org/training. This webinar and other SBDC resources are designed to be used in collaboration with your local SBDC advisors. You can sign up for a free and confidential session by emailing help@virginiasbdc.org or via our website. And we do hope to see you all at our next session. Take care and have a great Cybersecurity Month.
Yes, thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.